It's the DFL Show.
It's the DFL Show. It's the DFL Show.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the DFL Show. I'm joined here over satellite with Simon Journey, coach of Sutton D's, and we're also joined by Lucas Watkins of Z Sports Nation. Welcome to the show, guys. Gentlemen, it's week 11, and playoff stories are beginning to be written. As it stands right now, there are some surefire playoffs candidates, such as Chad Ochoquatro, maybe Team Taylor, but there are currently 6 teams within one win of a playoff spot. I'm wondering, what do these teams need to do in these next 4 weeks to put their names in playoff contention?
Well, no, there's lots of teams on the outside looking in, but it doesn't really feel like that because they're only one win behind. I'd say for teams like the Bardo men specifically, they just need to have a lot of grit in these final 4 weeks to get in the position to be in the playoffs and to score enough points to get some lopsided
No,
wins.
no. Look, the Bardo men do not need to worry about grit. What the Bardo men need to do is have the drive to get themselves into a playoff spot. Because you look at it right now, they're one game out. And if you're in that locker room and nobody has the drive to get past the rest of these teams, it's not going to happen. Look, I've won championships before. You're talking to a guy who has won multiple championships. I'm talking 1, 2, maybe 3, 4. Who knows at this point? You got to have the drive to move past these other teams because it's a week-to-week league, which is what you probably don't realize when you're talking about grit. Because if you don't win next week, then you're probably out of a playoff spot. Okay?
Maybe there's wiggle room, but I think grit is pretty equitable to drive. But okay.
Look. 1997, 1996-97 to be more specific. Michael Jeffrey Jordan, right? Puts the team on his back, leads the Chicago Bulls, the greatest player of all time, leads the greatest team of all time to a championship, and the only way that he did that was with drive, okay? If you go to Michael Jeffrey Jordan and you ask him about grit, he's going to tell you there's nothing to do with grit, okay? It was all drive, and that's how Michael Jordan led the Bulls to be the greatest team of all time.
I'm not really familiar with the anecdote, but I'm sure it's applicable in your mind to that.
I gotta ask you, if you're in the locker room with the Bardo men, what are you telling them? What are you doing to instill that drive in this team?
Look, I'm looking around. I'm looking at Derrick Henry, right? Have you heard of Tractor Cito season? Have you even heard of Tractor Cito season? All right, late season Derrick Henry needs to come alive. And they compare him to a tractor, right? And what do you do with a tractor? All right? Do you grit it? Do you sit in the driver's seat and try to grit your way around?
Don't grit it. You do not grit it.
No. You drive it.
Okay.
Do you have any response?
No, I don't. I don't have a response to that.
So instilling drive in these teams is what's going to get them to the playoffs. Hopefully, the Bardo men, maybe Sutton D's, through Super Weenie Hut Juniors. A lot of teams, if they can find the drive, they can find that playoff spot. On the flip side, there's a lot of teams who we think might have a chance of making it to the playoffs. What teams are currently projected to be in the playoffs that you think are fraudulent? Who does not deserve this playoff spot?
I think I have a good answer for this. I think it's our number 1 team, Chad Ochoquatro. I think the easiest reason is the injury bug has bitten him all over. He lost Jaden Daniels. he had to sign Ray McLeod, who currently I don't think is he signed? I'm not sure, but he's having to put in these waiver wire picks late in the season where we're picking at crumbs to replace massive roles, and it seems like the only guy in the first 5 rounds that he's able to use is Jahmyr Gibbs, who 1 week will score 5 points and 1 week will score 30 points. So it's not reliable. And I think when you're in a playoff situation, he's most liable to lose.
I don't know if I've heard a statement more incorrect. I would say you look at the team. First of all, Ray McLeod, one of the best punt returners in the entire league. And if you're not going to take that into account with your fantasy football, then you frankly have a problem with the entire league. And I'm not going to point fingers at who the commissioner is, but I think we all know, right? So if Ray McLeod isn't going to get the respect that he deserves, then frankly, what is the meaning of a championship? So if Chad Ochocinco goes out in the first round, I might even take that as a championship for him. Look, you want to talk about teams that are fraudulent, that are sitting in a playoff spot, likely to fall out. There's only one team to talk about. Okay, that's Gretschy's Gigglers. All right? You look up and down. I'm seeing bum after bum on this team. Chase Brown, one of the worst picks in the entire draft, probably took him in the second round. Don't get me started, Chase Brown. My goodness. Woody Marks is a 6th-round draft pick. Nobody, probably not even the starting running back, on a bad offense. Okay? Nick Chubb tore his ACL, MCL, UCL, PCL, A, B, C, D, C, L. Okay? And guess what? Nick Chubb is still a better running back than Woody Marks. Don't get me started on Xavier Worthy, okay? Because Xavier Worthy has never been and will never be a reliable player in fantasy football. Look at a player like Jameson Williams, for example. I want you to take a look at the Detroit Lions, all right? Who's the best wide receiver on the Detroit Lions? Can I rely on you to answer that question?
It's St. Brown.
It's Amon-Ra St. Brown. That's exactly right. Do you know why Amon-Ra St. Brown catches passes?
Good hands.
No. Another wrong. Whatever. It's okay. He catches passes because Jameson Williams is stretching the defense, allowing Amon-Ra St. Brown to catch passes over the middle. And no one has caught more passes at the beginning of their career than Amon-Ra St. Brown. Xavier Worthy, very similarly in Kansas City, does not catch enough passes to be good in fantasy. He helps Rashee Rice catch enough passes to be good in fantasy. So I don't want to be playing with second fiddle like Gretschy's Gigglers over here, Mr. Xavier Worthy.
But
so the fact that they're in a playoff spot, even to start, is
Can
insane.
you tell me that Cade Otton is a viable flex option though? Are you going to say that?
Look, Cade Otton is 26 years old. Cade Otton is entering the prime of his career on an offense that is absolutely electric. Okay? Cade Otton has had great weeks. And do I expect that a 26-year-old tight end on a great offense is going to improve? Especially after Mike Evans gets injured. Emeka Egbuka is in and out of the lineup. Chris Godwin is nowhere but to be seen. Yes, Cade Otton is a viable flex play.
There's been conversation about Potato Jones being underrated. Do you have any thoughts on this?
Do I think he's underrated or not? I actually do think he's underrated, and I think he has been this whole season. He at one point in the season was 1-5, and it seemed like it would be over, but you look at his roster and he has the capital that everyone wants, which is RB1s, and he happens to have 3. I've preached this for months at this point. But he has Christian McCaffrey, who every single week has gotten like over 20 points. Any week he can get 30 points. Achane for the Dolphins is like their main unit, and he catches so many passes. He's in 80% plus of snaps. And James Cook already had his career best week this year, and he's on an electric offense. With those 3 guys, you could almost account for 80 points from your running backs alone. And I know he doesn't have wide receivers that are the best. He has JMO and Darnell Mooney who haven't produced like they should. But I don't know. He's at 5-5. I think he's going to make a playoff spot because he has the capital. He just has it where he could play someone like Gretchen, who has terrible running backs, and she gets 5 points out of each of them. The value difference is huge, and that's why I think John is underrated and can make a playoff run.
Christian McCaffrey is the most injury-prone running back in the entire league. If you drafted Christian McCaffrey number 1 overall last year, you know what you got? Nothing. You got last place in your league. And if anybody's going to go down, it's probably Christian McCaffrey. We've seen Niner after Niner after Niner go down. We know there's a problem with the strength and conditioning at the San Francisco 49ers. It's not like we haven't seen this happen before, because the last year when Christian McCaffrey came back from his injury, which, by the way, was an injury caused from overuse, bilateral Achilles tendonitis is an injury that happens when you play too much football, okay? You become more likely to re-injure yourself. So Christian McCaffrey might be good this week. He might even be good next week. But do I think that Christian McCaffrey is going to bring Potato Jones to a championship this year? Absolutely not. Let's take a look at Devon Achane. Devon Achane playing on the Miami Dolphins, likely, and I can tell you right now, likely going to fire their head coach. I understand they got to win against Buffalo. Do we expect them to get any more wins this season? I doubt it. Devon Achane is going to get shut down before the fantasy football playoffs. Week 14, that comes around. Their most valuable asset, a running back who is undersized, very likely to get injured. If they have any brains on their heads, they will shut down Devon Achane probably around week 15, leaving this team in the dust for the playoffs, because who do they have beyond that? They have 2 wide receivers that are not even supposed to be rostered in fantasy football. Darnell Mooney, I guarantee Darnell Mooney was a 1 free agent acquisition buck player who came off the waiver wire last week, maybe the week before that, and that came out of pure desperation for this team. Jameson Williams, we already talked about Jameson Williams, okay? You're making me go back on Jameson Williams right now? Come on, don't make me do that. So this team is looking bad. If I was him, I would probably be looking to make a trade right now. Trade one of these injury-prone running back assets and go and get someone who's a real contributor.
A lot of times in fantasy leagues, quarterbacks kind of get swept to the wayside. They're a bit of a they're taken for granted. Any QB is going to get you 15, 20 points. But what I'm wondering is, are there any QBs that could turn around any of these teams? Could you see Patrick Mahomes or I don't know, Josh Allen pushing for 30, 40 points in one of these games and taking a team where they need to go?
I don't think either of the quarterbacks you mentioned are going to help the teams that are free-falling right now, but one that I do think could catapult somebody into the bracket is YouTube's Lamar Jackson. And I think that's because he's been performing normally, but he's on the precipice of making a playoff entrance. And he has Kyron Williams and Jalen Warren, who are the stars of their teams, who are keeping them in contention for their playoff hopes in the NFL. But if Lamar Jackson, on top of those performances, is rushing for a touchdown or 2, on top of the passing touchdowns, as they make their own playoff push, even though their season is in question, I think that will help him get there against teams who don't have a Patrick Mahomes, against teams who are scoring 20 points, as you said. I think if Lamar Jackson scores 30 or 35 points, YouTube is going to win that week. He could do that 2 more times in the 4 weeks left and make the playoffs and make a little run.
That's a team I'm following in particular. I think YouTube started off out the gate swinging and then fell a bit to the wayside, and it kind of feels like they're getting their second win, and especially just looking at their roster now, it's pretty intimidating. What do you think, Lucas?
I don't see how Lamar puts it back together, frankly. Look, coming off of an injury to his lower body, what does that do? That takes away his rushing upside. You're dealing with a subpar pocket passer who's not going to be rushing for touchdowns like Lamar Jackson has in the past. Guess what? We've seen bad seasons from Lamar Jackson. This is one of them. The Ravens are not in a playoff spot. They're not going to turn it around. If they do, it's going to be because of their defense, not their offense. Lamar Jackson, I would get rid of him right now. Frankly, I would go and
You
package.
drop him? Would you drop him?
I would trade him to somebody who doesn't know what they're doing. Okay, because if you take a look under the hood, you know that Lamar Jackson is a depreciating asset.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember Lamar Jackson. I remember last year. Oh, I remember when Lamar Jackson almost won MVP. The year before that, when he actually won MVP. Oh, I remember that. That was so cool. You know what else I remember? I remember 2016, summer 16. All right, American Teen came out. Okay, I'm talking about Khalid. I was in high school. All right, I smoked weed for the first time. I was having fun with my friends. Okay,
Cut that.
and you know what? And now I don't have that kind of fun anymore. All right, the kind of fun that was like empowering my life before and like leading me to like be a happy guy every day. I don't have that anymore, you know? So like sometimes things change, I guess. Lamar Jackson, who's gonna want Lamar?
Who would be stupid enough to pick Lamar off?
To take Lamar Jackson. Who's gonna be dumb enough to take Lamar Jackson? I think it's clearly Quinshon Judkins. Okay? First of all, you drafted Quinshon Judkins, who has no morals. Okay, so if you had a brain on your head, you probably wouldn't have drafted a guy that beat his girlfriend. First of all. Second of all, you can go and grab Josh Allen, who also has been underperforming for his standards. I'm talking about the QB1 in fantasy several seasons. Actually, the MVP last year. Okay. And I remember last year, last year I had a lot going for me also. Look, I was in a good place financially. This was before I made that investment. All right. I My relationship was better than it is right now. Okay. And I'm hoping that it turns positive, just like how Josh Allen's season maybe hasn't gotten off to the same start that he expected, but maybe by going over to her house and explaining myself, we can put this back on the rails. Okay. So that's why you got to trade Lamar for Josh Allen.
I don't know much about football, but I really, really agree with what you just said there. I want to get into some teams in particular. I think there's a storyline we've all been following very closely, but before I get into that, I want to talk about the team I find to be quite anomalous, which is 1400 mice pretending to be men. Now, this is a team where, they say a broken clock is right twice a day. This clock has been right 4 times now. Um, I want to get your thoughts on this because this is a manager who has been hardly was present during the draft. Drafted what 4 or 5 QBs, and has somehow managed to stay in playoff contention. They're 4-6. Even this evening, Travion Henderson scored almost 30 points. What's your take on this team? It seems anomalous.
I think it's a nothing burger. Honestly, I think Patrick Mahomes has kept them afloat for 4 of the matchups they've had. But other than that, they've had mishaps of starting guys who are out. I think this is a case where some of the worst teams in NFL history finish a season winning 4 games. Any given Sunday is a true cliche. I don't think it's anything to analyze or look into further. David Montgomery splits so many snaps with Jahmyr Gibbs that he ends up getting a touchdown, and if he doesn't, he's scoring no points. I don't have anything to say other than that. Mark Andrews hasn't been, I don't know who is still drafting Mark Andrews looking for him to be the #1 tight end in the league. That has not happened 3 years in a row. His bench is bad too.
Look, you got it all wrong. 1,400 mice pretending to be men. Okay, I know a thing or two about pretending to be a man. All right? When you tell your fiance that you're going to be able to support her financially and then you make the investment that I made, all right? You kind of feel a bit like a fraud. Okay, but what do you do? What do you do after that moment? What do you
I think you leave. You should leave her.
Good job. Good job, probably. Well, that is a nice segue into Then our next story. Last week, 1400 Mike pretending to be men miraculously, for depending on where you stand, miraculously beat possibly the most tragic team in all of DFL history, AJ Brown Bricks. AJ Brown Bricks, as we all know, is 0-10, something that seems impossible. If you flipped a coin 10 times and landed on tails every time, I mean, what are the odds? This team is just unbelievable. On paper, it looks fine, but somehow every single week they manage to just squeeze out a loss. I mean, this last week it wasn't even squeezed out; they just got trampled on. So, what are your thoughts here? Is there any shot here of, I mean, anything, anything positive coming out of this team?
Well, I think there's two ways to look at this. I think there's either looking at ownership failing, or you're looking at a retooling of the roster aspect of this. So I think Cess is on the hot seat because they were actually projected after the draft. They were projected as the second best team in the entire league behind Potato Jones. They were projected second. And it just shows how much stock we put into the draft and how it can end up not being as impactful as waiver wire pickups and trades. He is now winless. He never scores over 100 points. And I think that falls on management. I think that falls on Cess being incapable of finding the right guys to plug into his roster. And I don't know what you say. I think that they've been looking at the next season for about 6 weeks now, seeing how poorly they've been performing. I think they need to have a short memory, just like you do in lots of sporting events.
Look, AJ Brown Bricks is in a place where we've all been, okay? Where you got a little bit unlucky. All right? You bought a timeshare in Atlas Earth, okay? And you bought it for a lot of money, and I'm talking about probably the complete balance of your bank account at the time. And you had been saving up for something that was very important to your fiance, namely a wedding, okay? You're looking at the situation going forward, and it seems like you're not going to be able to progress to have the drive to make yourself get to that finish line, okay? And by the finish line, I mean just like continuing on, right? You're feeling like this isn't really going to work out, all right? And you just got to come back and look at this and say, and just say it's not your fault, right? I mean, you guys would have made the same investment, right? It would like if you, okay, it's a
Hindsight's
crypto.
2020.
You imagine you combine crypto, right? NFTs with virtual property. Okay, I'm talking about
Real
AR,
estate.
VR, real estate, non-fungible Atlas Earth. $35,000.
Yeah, I would have thought that'd be
Seems
safe too.
that seems reasonable. Seems like a reasonable amount of money for a picture on
Yeah.
your phone. So it sounds like metaphorically or uh, in relation to the season, Simon, when things get rough, you look to next season. Lucas, when things get rough, you want to dig your heels in, find the drive to turn things around, make it work. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah.
Okay, guys, this is part of the show where we do our rapid fire questions. I want to hear one word for each team. Let's start with number one, Chad Ochoquatro. One word, Simon.
Idiocracy.
Lucas.
Goated.
Potato Jones.
Sexy.
Overrated.
Richard Giggler.
Underrated.
Xavier Worthy.
That was two words.
Unworthy.
Little fuckers.
Smart.
Boring.
Mutard Bijan. So, you gotta chill. You gotta chill. You gotta chill.
Man.
Potential.
Team Taylor.
Front runner.
Wannabe.
Pardo Men.
Chill.
Drive.
D's.
Brilliant.
Investor.
YouTube.
Gay.
Gay.
Super Weenie Hut Juniors.
Immaculate.
Disgraceful.
1400 mice pretending to be a man.
Disastrous.
Relatable.
Quinshawn Chudkins.
Failure.
Mental illness. Wait.
We'll count it.
Okay.
AJ Brown Bricks.
Voluptuous.
Redeemable.
Vaughn's Bob Burgers Fan Club.
Nice.
All right, everyone, it's time for Fuck, Marry, Kill, Suck, Eat Out, Scissor, Smoke, and Chill, Start a Business, One Night Stand, Smile at, Confide in, Eat, Beat to Death, and Adopt. Simon?
Seth,
Let's
Gretchen,
hear it.
Cooper, John, Yash, Brandon, Drew, Noah, Tristan, Pat, myself, Show, Max, and Taylor.
Wrong. Lucas?
Max, Cooper, Taylor, Noah, Sebastian, Drew, Gretchen, Patrick, Brandon, John, Siobhan, Yash, Tristan.
I couldn't agree more. Well, everyone, that's all the time we've got today. Thank you so much for tuning in to the DFL show, and we will see you next Thursday.